Okay. I think we are
Okay.
connected live.
Yeah, we are. Okay. So ready? Yeah, okay.
1 second. One second. Okay, I think, yeah, we can start now.
Okay. So again, welcoming everyone, whoever is watching and taking an active interest or a passive interest in our chat show. Thank you for watching. So today again, we are back with our continuation of our discussion from 2 Sundays back or 2 Saturdays back about some popular notions about this organization that we ascribe to ISKCON, International Society for Krishna Consciousness. So there are some myths and some misconceptions that we would like to clear. So we have Pratik Desai with us, who's a good friend of mine, and he's a very intellectual spiritualist who has been practicing the tenets of Bhakti Yoga within ISKCON for more than 10 years now. And he's been teaching people to live a life centered on the principles of God realization, as enunciated in the Bhagavad Gita, the legendary treatise Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, and has very deep understanding of the subtleties of our existence. So it's very interesting to always meet and get answers from Pratik. So we are just going to do the same thing, continue with our discussion from last time, and yeah, let's see how much we can cover and how Pratik can help us in understanding, in getting answers to these questions. So Pratik, over to you now. Would you like to say something before we start, or can I just
just one second? I will just come back.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you, Aridra, so much again for the continuation of this talk show, which is a very important theme on the clarification of misconceptions about ISKCON, and it's very relevant in today's day and age. So thank you for your kindness in always coming up with a lot of interesting topics for the benefit of a lot of people.
Sure. Now, these are very pertinent topics. So if we can start with our Q&A. So the question that I wanted to ask last time and we couldn't get to it was, there is a notion that the devotees within ISKCON, they're very exclusivist in about their path and about like other paths. It just seems like that we don't consider other paths like worth following. So is that really the right understanding, or like is there a different angle of vision through which we need to understand this, the exclusivism?
Okay. Can you explain to me what do you mean by exclusivist? In what context?
Like in the context of gaining spiritual emancipation, that this is the path, that this is the only path, which since time and again we see in among other traditions as well. So they say there's the same conception about ISKCON as well, that Krishna Bhakti is the topmost, everything else is like suboptimal. So how do we, is that the correct understanding? Is that really true? And how to look at it, how to understand it? Yeah.
Well, being a follower of ISKCON, we don't claim that ISKCON is the only way. In fact, there are many other wonderful paths by different which are established by different acharyas, sages, and these are also Vaishnava Sampradayas. And so these are all bona fide paths, and we don't claim or say that ISKCON is the only way, but we do claim that, or it's not that we are claiming. In fact, it is actually the Bhagavatam which is claiming that Krishna is the supreme God. And I think we had a discussion last time about this. Or no, I don't think so. We had covered this topic, but okay. So I will explain this in detail because it is common misconception amongst people that ISKCON is claiming that Krishna consciousness. Why do we worship only Krishna, or why he is the only supreme God? So it's not something that is invented. Okay, Krishna himself is actually establishing this fact in the Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. And the Vedic scriptures also, if you go through it very carefully, you will also understand that how Krishna is actually the supreme, because he's the only form of God which is displaying all the opulences to the fullest. Even the Vishnu forms of the Lord, they are not displaying opulences to the fullest, or they do not possess opulence in full. Only Krishna possesses that opulence. And there are many evidences of that in the scriptures. So, and then obviously the Srimad Bhagavatam is the Amal Puran, considered to be the Amal Puran amongst the Vaishnava community. And especially, 3 Vaishnava Sampradayas, they are claiming the fact that Krishna is the supreme. So we have the Nimbarka Sampradaya, who is actually also the follower of Krishna. Then we have the Madhva Sampradaya. In Madhva Sampradaya, we also are a part of the Madhva Sampradaya. We are a branch which is connected to the Madhva Sampradaya through Madhavendra Puri. And obviously later on Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared in this Sampradaya, who is actually not different from Krishna. There are many evidences of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's appearance in Kali Yuga, and indicating that he is actually not different from Krishna in the mood and bhav of Srimati Radharani, the topmost devotee of Krishna. So this is established in many scriptures. If someone needs some evidence, then I can definitely share it. But let's for now assume that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is the supreme personality of Godhead, and he's not different from Krishna. So he is the one who is actually claiming that Srimad Bhagavatam is actually the natural commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, and Srimad Bhagavatam is the ultimate authority for all Vedic scriptures. So Bhagavatam very clearly states that Krishna is actually the supreme being. And why? Obviously there are many reasons, because as I mentioned earlier, that Krishna is displaying full opulence. Generally the Vishnu Puran, Parasar Muni is describing God as, or Bhagwan, as someone who is the possessor of all the opulences, someone who possesses all the opulences. And mainly there are 6 opulences, which is basically strength, wisdom, knowledge, renunciation, beauty. So these are one of the most prominent opulences of God. And we say that, or the way Shastra define or the sages define God is that someone who is possessing all these opulences to the fullest, to infinite degree. That person is actually the supreme being. So when you categorize all of them, you'll actually come to the conclusion, and you'll understand that only Krishna is actually displaying all these opulences to the maximum. And then there are, so basically in the Shastra it is described that Krishna is possessor of unlimited qualities, but his main qualities are 64 qualities, and Vishnu possesses 60 qualities. So he does not possess 4 qualities compared to Krishna. And then we have Lord Shiva, who possesses 55 qualities, 5 less than Vishnu. And then there is Brahma, or the living entity, who is possessing only 50 qualities compared to Krishna's qualities, compared to Vishnu and Shiva's qualities. So, and then even if you consider the pastimes of the Lord, you will see that Krishna's pastimes are the best. His leelas are the best. And no one else has performed pastimes like those of Krishna's pastimes. Plus, if you see that, Krishna has facilitated all the 5 rasas in his, when you connect to God, or when you connect to the Supreme Lord, then you have to connect in some relationship with the Lord. So which is called as ras or melo. And you cannot establish a relationship with the Lord without knowing that what activities the Lord is performing, where he is residing. He has his own planet. And then there are, like just like in the material world, we see that people have different relationship with a person. So with you, I am a friend, and your mother is like, she has a parental affection for you. And then you also have your wife, she has conjugal affection for you. And then you may have your servants also in the house. They treat you as a master. And then you also have uh, so basically there are 4 active relationships, okay, in the material world. And similarly, the same thing exists in the spiritual world in its pure form. And so you'll see that only with Krishna you have these 4 relationships, but with other forms of God you will not have these 4 relationships. You will have only, it will be restricted to dasya bhav, or which is basically servant and master relationship. So you cannot become friend of Lord Ram, Lord Vishnu, or you cannot attain that position. You cannot even become the parents of the Supreme Lord, because his parents are already fixed in the spiritual world. Only with Krishna you can attain that position. So these are all the minute details which clearly indicate that how Krishna is displaying full opulences, and he is, so basically the 4 qualities that Krishna possesses, which no other form has, is Roop Madhurya, Prem Madhurya, Leela Madhurya, and Venu Madhurya. And it is also described in the Shastra that there is a lot of intimacy with Krishna compared to any other god, compared to any other forms of the Lord. So you have a master and servant relationship with Vishnu, but you cannot have a intimate, homely, friendly, like a family relationship with Vishnu. That is only possible with Krishna, and that's why he's completely, situated. I mean, whoever is connected to Krishna, they are situated in Madhurya Ras, in the mellow of sweetness. Because when you have a relationship with one of your family members, that is very intimate. You don't consider the position of that person, and you don't bother about certain etiquettes. So you go beyond etiquettes, and you never bother about the position of that person, whoever that person is. So like, for example, if you are a CEO of a company, so you in the house you are for your mother, for your brother, for your children, you are just a father, just a brother and just a son. They are not going to see you as a CEO of a company. But if you go to the office, and your family members will come to the office, then they will find a bit strange there, because the entire atmosphere is occupied with awe and reverence. So there is, they obviously they don't consider you as a CEO of the company, but when they go to the office, because of that environment, they will be inspired to behave like that. So that is a relationship which is based on awe and reverence, and this is existing with other forms of the Lord. It does not exist with Krishna. So there are many, and then obviously there is also a very important consideration, observation from the scriptures, that Krishna is the only one who actually can bestow bhakti and prem to the enemies or to the demons that he kills. Vishnu can elevate the position of the demons, but only Krishna can bestow them liberation. And that liberation is also obviously of different types. But Krishna can give them Sayujya Mukti, or merging with the impersonal Brahman, or he can also bestow them Prem, which is love of God. So these are all technical details why Krishna is considered the supreme, and no other form of the Lord will display all these qualities. So based on the description in the scriptures, this is how the acharyas in the Vaishnava Sampradayas, they have concluded that Krishna is actually that supreme being, or he is the one who is. So basically, somehow, see, now obviously when you in the material also you'll see this, whoever performs best, you consider that person as superior or supreme, right? uh, like for example, if let's say Bill Gates is actually the richest person in the world. So Bill Gates is the richest person. It's not that we are claiming that we are being biased when we are saying that he's the richest person in the world. Well, the facts are actually shown, and there are results. I mean, you declare someone to be richest person by the facts. You can check their annual turnover, or their finances, and that's how you come to a conclusion that they are actually one of the richest people in the world. So similarly, because of the activities of Krishna, uh, and the type of attraction that he is uh, bestowing on the devotees, that is on a very unique platform. It's a very deep and intimate relationship. So only Krishna can actually attract. Uh, I mean, it is also described in the scriptures that Krishna attracts even the people who are liberated. He also attracts people who are actually willing, who have a desire to be in the material world. He attracts all kinds of people. Atma Ramascha Munaya. So even people, those who are attracted by liberation, those who have achieved liberation, and those who have material desires, they are all attracted by Krishna. That's how Krishna is attracting the heart of every living entity. And this is very rare. So there are innumerable description about the qualities of Krishna, how they stand unique amongst all the other forms of God. And that's why it is not that ISKCON devotees claim that Krishna is the supreme being, but the scriptures is actually claiming that. And what we are doing, we are just extracting the essence of all these hidden truths in the scriptures. So the Acharyas and the Goswamis, they have done this. And so by saying that Krishna is the supreme, we are not being biased. In fact, if someone can search for any other god who has more qualities, who can surpass even Krishna, then they have to prove it. And if they prove it, then we accept it. And then obviously, we also understand what is the destination that we attain by somehow understanding the fact that this God is having more qualities than Krishna, and at the same time, what are his activities in the spiritual world. So basically, we have to see the goal and the result also. You'll see that we have Vaikuntha for Lord Vishnu, and then we have the abode of Sadashiv. Now again, the followers of Lord Shiva, they may say something about him, they may claim that Shiva is supreme, but then all these followers ultimately say that the Supreme Lord is impersonal, which means that even Shiva is actually the manifestation of that impersonal form of the Lord. And so what does that mean? It means that even though you worship Shiva, but then finally you reject Shiva when you achieve liberation. Whereas with Krishna and Vishnu or Vaishnavas, that is not at all the objective, because we understand clearly from the scriptures that the Vaikuntha planets as well as Krishna's own abode is eternal. And eternal means Krishna is displaying his activities, qualities, and he's also living there eternally. That means we are connected to Krishna eternally through some form of relationship. Whereas you'll see that this kind of relationship is not mentioned with Lord Shiva. Right? So someone may claim that Lord Shiva is the supreme, but then ultimately, if they say that he's just a manifestation of impersonal aspect, then what is the meaning of that? It does not make any sense. And so basically, when you say that someone is supreme, everything about that person has to be supreme, and it should make sense. Like whatever. The person has to be eternal. First of all, you cannot just accept someone as superior and then say that okay, he's just a manifestation of a impersonal aspect. And ultimately, when we achieve liberation, then we don't need to worship Lord Shiva or any other form of God, because they are all manifestation of the impersonal aspect. So that means there is a flaw, right? So these things are all common sense. Actually, the problem is that our Indian culture, or Indians, they have been influenced a lot by the Westerners, and obviously you'll see the history. In the past, our temples have been destroyed. The knowledge that we have in the scriptures, that is distorted. It is burned. The scriptures were burned, and they were not made available to us. The entire idea of the British invading India was basically not to fight a war, but actually to destroy their culture. And because of that destruction of culture, people are actually misled. Now, what is happening is, most of the people, or most of the Indians, they are getting information about spiritual life from watching television serials or from the movies. Okay, now it is interesting that you may take certain things from the movies or from the television serials, and it may be bona fide. Now, how do you say that it is bona fide? It is bona fide because ultimately it is based on scriptures. You cannot make up something of your own, especially when it comes to God and the things connected to God. You have to have a reference for that. So you cannot, the entire Ramayana, the entire Mahabharata that we have seen in the television, it is all coming from scriptures, the Mahabharata scripture as such, right? And then we have the Bhagavad Gita also, the part of the Mahabharata. And then we have Purana. So we have seen a lot of serials like Shiv Puran, Vishnu Puran, Krishna, and all these serials. What is the base of these stories? The stories they are all coming. You'll see that in the opening section of the serials, the producer and the director, they do mention a list of the scriptures from where they have taken all these ideas. So, they may put some flavor into that, but ultimately the basic principles, the foundational principles of the story remains the same. They may add certain things here and there, but the entire theme of the story is coming from scripture finally. So, so the scriptures, if you read them carefully, if you understand their meaning, now scriptures talks about everything. It talks about the impersonal aspect of the Lord. It talks about the personal aspect of the Lord, because the fact that there is a description of Goloka, or there's a description of Vaikunta in the Shastra, and it is also defined that it is eternal. So then what does it mean? So one cannot reject certain statements of the scripture and accept only those which they like. You have to accept everything. You cannot reject scriptures in its entirety. So you have to, so if there is a contradiction, and there will be a lot of contradictions, if you are not connected to any particular sampradaya, you will be completely confused, because scriptures are full of contradictions. And it's the art of a devotee or a person who is actually connected to a sampradaya too, and they can actually reconcile all these contradictions. So the scriptures that talk about many things, but we have to resolve it. We have to reconcile it. We cannot reject some of it. We have to accept everything. It's just that you have to, when there are two contrary statements, this is also described by Srila Vyasadeva in the Vedanta Sutra, that if you have two contrary statements, then you cannot reject them. You have to interpret one of them in order to reconcile them. So this is a very essential principle. If people understand this principle, then they will be able to understand scriptures in their entirety, and then they will also accept the fact that God can also exist as a person. Now, we are existing as a person, then why it is not possible for someone who has created us to exist as a person eternally? Right? So these are all the minute details which are actually kind of hidden with time. It is not, the information is not given to us, because the curriculum that we have studied in the schools, they have covered all these things. They have not presented the real facts. So that's how we say that Krishna is a supreme based on absolute facts. Okay, but we don't claim that ISKCON is the only way to connect with Krishna or to connect with God. Obviously, there are many different paths, And Krishna himself, he does not also, he discourages this kind of attitude. The Bhagavad Gita itself, actually, Krishna, very clearly mentions that ye athamam prabodhante tam satai bhajami ham. As one surrenders to me, I reward them accordingly. And then we see that Krishna is also manifesting in different forms. So, and then, Krishna is saying that whoever worship these forms, they, their faith in that particular form will be maintained. It will be, it will become steady with time, because like, for example, now see, basically, who came from whom, that's a question mark. So someone will say that, okay, Vishnu is coming from Krishna. Someone will say that Krishna is coming from Vishnu. The latter one is more popular idea in India, where this claim that Krishna is coming from Vishnu. But actually, the Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures, they do not accept this principle, because in fact, even to say that Vishnu is coming from Krishna is also not entirely true. Why? Because these forms are eternal forms of the Lord. So Brahma Samhita very clearly states, Advaitam Achyutam Anadir Govindam Adi Purusham Tam Am Bhajami, that all the forms of the Lord, they are eternal. In fact, it also gives examples of the candle, the initial candle, the original candle, and then there are many other candles. So if one candle is lit up, then you can just light up all the other candles also, and all the other candles will have the same potency as the original one. So similarly, all the forms of the Lord, they have the same potency, but in terms of their manifestation of qualities in displaying opulences, Krishna manifests full opulences, opulences in the fullest degree. So that we have already described, and that's why it is wrong to say that who is coming from whom. And so, we just say that, well, these are eternal forms, but and they just appear and disappear. Because see, whenever you talk about incarnation, Krishna coming in this world through the as an avatar of Vishnu and like that, but the idea is that Krishna is already there, he's already present. And so vice versa, if you say Vishnu is incarnation of Krishna, he's coming now, but Vishnu is also, right, he's also already established, he's eternal form of the Lord. So these are all eternal forms of the Lord, but they are manifesting and they are appearing and disappearing at certain period of time. That's why, we think that, and because material world, we are always thinking in terms of time and space. So we want to know who is appearing first and who appeared later and things like that. But actually, from a purely spiritual point of view, these are all eternal forms. So we don't say who is coming from whom, but yeah, we categorize the superiority in terms of their qualities and the activities that they display. Okay, so this is something which is very important for everyone to understand. And we have Vallabha Sampradaya, which is the Rudra Sampradaya, then Nimbarka Sampradaya, which is the Vishnu Swami Sampradaya, and then Madhva Gaudiya Sampradaya also. All the three Sampradayas, they accept the fact that Krishna is actually the supreme personality of Godhead. And yeah, so all other forms are actually like displaying less opulences than Krishna. This is what is consistent. Srimad Bhagavatam claims, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has claimed, and that's how the Shastra is actually claiming that. Yeah, so I hope it clears quite a number of misconceptions about this.
Yeah, so you are referring to like other Vaishnava Sampradayas, but I will go a little broader, and I will also point out some examples that we have seen amongst Srila Prabhupada's early disciples, who were not from the ambit of Vedic culture, who were from the West, who were following Judaism, who were born in Jewish families or Christian families, and even they, like they were not even, like, we are not talking about Vedic culture even, so, but even they said that they were able to appreciate their paths much more when they came within Krishna consciousness, within the realm of bhakti. And they said that I have actually personally spoken, I think, yeah, I can't remember, but we were having this conversation in Krishna House, and there were some senior devotees who said that they felt that Krishna consciousness, and in Alachu actually, that Krishna consciousness was an extension. They found it as an extension of their path. So they were not rejecting their path, but they understood that Krishna consciousness was only like, taking them like to a higher pinnacle, not to disregard the where they started as being like a wrong path or something. So yeah, so I just wanted to bring that up because even people from other traditions have been able to appreciate this about about bhakti, about Krishna consciousness, how it can like really take you to the pinnacle. So without rejecting their own paths. So yeah, I think it was a very good good discussion on this point. You gave very well-rounded understanding from perspective of other traditions and what the Shastra says, which is should be our ultimate authority. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, there are people who may claim certain things, but then they have to substantiate their claim also, and they have to prove it that whichever form of the Lord they are worshipping is supreme, in not just in terms of for the present lifetime or for the material world, as long as we are present in the material world, but then they have to establish the fact that this particular form of the Lord is supreme because it is eternal form, and it is displaying more qualities and opulences than Krishna. So basically what is happening is only the Vaishnava Sampradaya, they accept the fact that the forms of the Lord are eternal, and we have a relationship with them. Okay, so this is what there is a common approach. And then obviously the Gaudiya Vaishnavas and Nimbarkas and whoever claims that Krishna is supreme, they go beyond that by saying that Krishna is also allowing us to have more intimacy with him compared to other forms of the Lord. Okay, so this is about Vaishnavism. Now, when you go out of Vaishnavism, then you have different paths. Obviously, you have Buddhism, Christianity, Islam, and then you have Jainism also, and then you have Advaitavad also, Mayavad path and all. So, if you ask them about the to describe about God, who is God? See, they will have a very different definition of God from how we are defining God, or basically how the scriptures, because see, the scriptures also define God in multiple ways. As I said earlier, that Krishna or Supreme Lord is not just personal; he is also impersonal simultaneously. Like the example is given that the personality aspect is compared to the sun god basically, that there is a person who is actually ruling the sun planet, and then we have the abode of sun, the sun itself basically, which is compared to the Paramatma feature of the Lord, because it's a localized aspect of the absolute truth. So you have the personal aspect of the absolute truth, you have the localized aspect, and then you have the effulgent aspect of the absolute truth, which is basically the rays of the sun. Okay, now the sun is all, I mean, this is how the scriptures are defining in the Upanishads as well as in the Puranas. So now all the three are mentioned in the scriptures, not just one of them, right? So then obviously, and what the scripture is doing is they are also encouraging people at different level to worship the Lord in their own ways. So basically, if you are a follower of impersonal path, you will attain that impersonal path. It's not that you will not attain just because the personality aspect of the Lord or the absolute truth is the superior aspect, which is actually described in the Bhagavad Gita when Arjuna is asking this question to the Lord, that amongst the three aspects, which is the superior, and Krishna says that my personality or my form is actually the most superior, right? So basically, and then Bhagavad Gita is actually the summary of Vedas. Vedescha sarvar eva vedya vedanta krit vedavid eva chaham. So I am the compiler of the Vedas and I am the knower of the Vedas. And it makes perfect sense, because a person can only compile the Veda and he can know the Veda, and he can actually transmit the knowledge of Vedas. Whereas if you consider the impersonal aspect of the Lord to be the supreme, or let's say if that's the only form of the Lord which is existing, well, who is speaking? Who is speaking with us? Because you have this impersonal form. And then what is the need of speaking? And how suddenly how suddenly a impersonal, so basically a person is a one who is the possessor of Shakti, or who is having energy. Now you say that you are impersonal, so that means you are withdrawing all the energy. So how can you speak? And then when you say that you are the supreme absolute truth cannot do something, then what you are doing is you are restricting actually the absolute truth. And in that sense, you are actually contradicting the Upanishads, because the Upanishads also say that you cannot limit the absolute truth, and you cannot use your intelligence and limit the supreme truth in terms of your intelligence and mind, because you are material, you are limited, you are restricted. So you cannot use intelligence in order to understand the Lord. So basically, see, so ultimately what we can realize and conclude is that the personal aspect of the Lord is the one who is actually speaking the Vedas, is transmitting the knowledge, and is also existing simultaneously in the Paramatma feature as well as the localized, the Brahman feature of the absolute truth. And he is existing in these three forms so that we can approach him in these three ways. He accepts it. It's not that, if you don't approach me in my personal form, then you are eternally ruined. Okay, it's not like that, because God is infinitely merciful. So what is the meaning of that? Infinitely merciful means whichever way you approach, he will accept you. Okay, in whichever form, whichever way you approach, then the Supreme Lord will accept you. But it is just that the way you reciprocate with him, the way he will also reciprocate with you, because you want that kind of reciprocation from him. So that's why he will. And as a loving father, whatever the child wants, the father will actually give to the child. Okay. So basically, this particular quality of the Lord should be appreciated. He does not force others to accept a path, and he accommodates all the living entities in their respective ways to connect to him. So in that sense, you will see that again, now the fact that there is some absolute, the absolute truth is accommodating. He's allowing people to connect to him in different ways. That itself proves that he's a person. See, these are ultimately all the traits of a personality. Even though you describe the absolute truth in an impersonal way, but then when you try to explain why one must connect to the absolute truth, then what you will actually understand and realize is that the characteristics and ultimately all these qualities of the absolute are coming out. Again, there are a lot of questions that why we are created, why we are here in the first place, from where did we come, why did we come, why are we suffering? And then when you connect everything with absolute truth, so there is some reason, and that reason, you question that reason. So why it happened like this? Obviously, then you give some reason for that. You give some explanation. So ultimately, you realize that when you are questioning and then we are expecting an answer for it, it means again it's a process of reciprocation. So ultimately, you cannot deny, you cannot reject the fact that the absolute truth is only impersonal. Okay. So basically, that's why I say that when you go outside of the Vaishnava understanding of scriptures, then you are actually kind of contradicting yourself. You are not establishing the truth, okay, based on the scriptures, because you are completely rejecting the idea that the absolute truth is a person. Okay. But Vaishnavism accepts that the absolute truth is impersonal, as well as it as a Paramatma feature and Bhagwan. So the three aspects is there. In Srimad Bhagavatam also talks about this, and the Upanishad also talk about this. So this is common sense. This is common sense. Now, obviously, the foremost praman or evidence is actually the scripture. Okay, but when you have the difference of opinion about interpreting the scriptures, then you use logic. Okay, logic is very important. Logical inference. Pratyaksh and Anuman. Anuman is actually very important because you can, through common sense, you can actually make out that which interpretation of the scripture is bona fide and which is not. So there is, I mean, all these ideas, they have just come up because there are people who are actually that, see, these things are very attractive to us because these paths are very attractive because they want us to be the enjoyers. They want us to enjoy sense gratification in the material world. And they also want to make us feel that we are the masters of the material world. Whereas if you go into the philosophy of Vaishnavism, it's all about being the servant, basically trying to become the servants of others, which means that when you love someone, then you try to serve that person. You don't compete with that person. You don't try to belittle that person, but you try to appreciate what they are doing. And then you also try to serve that person. Love basically means service. You cannot separate love from service. So if you want to love someone, then you have to serve that person. And when you serve someone, you become a servant. That is technically the definition of being a servant, not like a master-servant relationship that you see in the material world. Okay. So, so this is a very important understanding, a very logical and very, it's a common sense thing.
Yeah, that's true. So, okay. Now, the other thing, as we were discussing, the other thing that's coming to my mind is from like talking about being exclusivist. The other thing that I have heard people have expressed this is that ISKCON is a very influential organization, but doesn't really seem like they're doing anything tangible for the society. For example, provide education, affordable healthcare, which I don't personally think ISKCON should be doing, but I think we still do that. And then, to the needy people. So what do you say about that? Like, if even
did we not
feeding
discuss
the
this
poor.
in the last session? I think we already discussed this, right?
Oh, did I ask this question? Okay. So maybe I was talking about it. Yeah. Oh, we talked about food relief, Bhaktivedanta Hospital, right? We did. Okay.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. The other thing is about being very financially rich. ISKCON looks like they're especially in India, this thing is there, that they're soliciting a lot of money from its followers and outsiders. So is that true? Like how do we understand that? I mean, we know that donations are given at temples, but is it right for people to think that ISKCON is kind of quote unquote extorting money, soliciting people for donations against their wishes?
Yeah, I mean, we keep hearing people claiming that ISKCON centers, they are getting a lot of money from foreign abroad, and that's how they are running the show. So what is the reality? Now, this is a very critical question, and I would directly like to mention about the facts. I mean, I would like to share the facts on this. See, basically, we know that ISKCON, the founder of ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada, and we are followers of Srila Prabhupada, right? So there is no question of doing something which Prabhupada didn't advise us and instructed us. And but before that, before sharing the facts, That's a simple question. If ISKCON has centers all over the world, and even if some ISKCON temples, they are sending money to some local centers in India or anywhere else also, then what is the harm in that? Because it's ultimately is the ISKCON center. It's an entire family. So you send money from India to the US or US to India or from US to Australia or whichever country. What is the harm in that? If a particular center is collecting a lot of donation and some center is unable to collect that much, because ISKCON centers, they are located in major cities of the world, and you cannot expect that ISKCON centers outside India will perform in the same way they are performing in India. In India, because of the Vedic culture, because of familiarity with the culture, Indians are naturally inclined to visit temples and give donations. So obviously in India, the collection of funds will be maximum. But outside India, there is no culture, there is no familiarity of the Vedic principles. So how can you expect that people will go to the temple and they will donate? I mean, obviously we have Indians who are actually going to temples and they are donating, but we don't expect that from the Westerners who are completely new to the culture, right? So this thing is there. Now, even if there is an internal transaction between one temple and another temple, what is wrong in that? It is just going from one ISKCON temple to another ISKCON temple. And obviously, if there is, if there's a cheating process involved, then obviously that is definitely sinful. It is also wrong. Okay. But here we are talking about purely about just transferring of funds. Now, even though I did try to defend this point, but actually the reality is completely opposite. And this is what I would like to share, because Prabhupada, actually Srila Prabhupada wanted that each and every ISKCON center should be independent. They should run independently and they should not depend on other temples. ISKCON temples. Okay. So I would like to share certain facts about it, and this is consistently mentioned by Srila Prabhupada. Okay. So see, basically, the idea is that if you make now, so basically, if you make a system bureaucratic, then what will happen? Everything becomes centralized. When you make everything centralized, then the local devotees who are living in the temple, they will not probably, it's not that every devotee is at the same level of inspiration to serve and to dedicate their life completely. So some devotees, they may have, they may go forward at a lesser pace than the other devotees. They may move forward at a higher pace. And similarly, they may also perform services at a higher pace, in higher quantities, and in qualities also. Probably they may render a lot of services, and at the same time, they are also good in quality. But there are other devotees who may be good in quantity, but may not be in quality. And then there are devotees who may be good in quality, but they are not good in quantity. So you will find all different types of people, because ultimately we are coming from a conditioned background, right? We are not like liberated souls right from the beginning. When we join ISKCON or a spiritual path, we have certain limitations, our conditionings, and then we have our habits also that we need to overcome. And because of these things, it actually creates an obstacle in our services, or the speed with which we may carry out these services. So basically the idea is that the more you make the system localized, the more you encourage devotees to serve the Lord more and more, to serve humanity more and more. Otherwise, what will happen? There is a tendency that they may become lazy just because money is coming from outside. So when you have a bureaucratic system, you cannot expect the temples where devotees will be fired up, where they will be willing to do a lot of services, or they would like to expand the temple. That tendency may gradually become less, and it can actually affect the temple atmosphere. So when you have a vibrant temple, you can only have a vibrant temple when you have someone who is dressing the deities very nicely, someone who is taking care of the guests very nicely, someone who is maintaining the temple very nicely, and there are a lot of activities where you share knowledge with others, with the public in general. So that's a vibrant temple. So obviously we want that each and every temple should be vibrant. And obviously purity is the force, as Prabhupada said. So as far as the devotees, they strive to please the Lord and to serve the Lord. To that degree, the purity in the temple is more. And to the degree the purity is more, the more will be the reach out. The more will be the expansion of the temple. Okay. So understanding these things, we can now actually easily understand why Srila Prabhupada recommended that the system should be localized and it should not become centralized. So basically, I just wanted to share few letters of Srila Prabhupada, which he wrote to his disciples to make sure that we don't become a centralized system. So one of the letters, Prabhupada says, Krishna Conscious Movement is for training men to be independently thoughtful and competent in all types of departments of knowledge and action, not for making bureaucracy. Okay, so see, this is also very important. Now, the more you are independent, the more you do not depend on others, the more you become independently thoughtful, the more you become creative, the more you take up challenges. So as a person also, there is a lot of growth. As an organization also, there is a lot of growth in that particular temple, right? Then another letter, Prabhupada says, each and every branch shall keep their independent identity and cooperate, keeping the Acharya in the center. On this principle, we can open any number of branches all over the world. So the idea is unity in diversity. You have diversity, localized diversity, but a centralized unity also, which means that there are the management has to be unified. The ultimate manager authority has to be unified in terms of the guiding principles of the movement. Because now what is ISKCON? ISKCON has their tenets. And what are the tenets? So for each and every center, they are following the same tenets. The goal is the same. The process of worshipping Krishna is the same. So that is unified. That is centralized. Okay. And if there is any issue about, because when you have unified structure, then obviously there are certain common principles. And in order to protect those common principles, we have a management which is kind of in charge of that in order to protect it. So that's how, the GVC is the ultimate managing authority, and it becomes a centralized process. But the GVC role is only, it comes into effect only when there is a discrepancy in following the tenets of ISKCON principles. Otherwise, the GVC does not at all interfere with the local management, which is basically the local temples, the president and all. This is what we understand. Okay, so yeah, another letter Prabhupada says that to make it more tasteful, one adds salt to his food. And similarly, every center should be independently developed by supplying the food, and the society if required will supply the salt. So this is a wonderful analogy by Prabhupada. And as far as possible, the center should act freely but conjointly. Okay, so basically act in a unified way, but act also freely, independently. According to Sanskrit moral principles, everything has to be acted, taking consideration of the time, place, and audience. As far as possible, the centers should act freely, but conjointly. They must look forward to the common development. Then another letter, Prabhupada says, do not centralize anything. Each temple must remain independent and self-sufficient. Regarding your points about taxation, corporate status, I have heard from Jaitirtha, you want to make big plan for centralization of management, taxes, monies, corporate status, bookkeeping, credit, like that. I do not at all approve of such plan. Do not centralize anything. Each temple must remain independent and self-sufficient. That was my plan from the very beginning. Why are you thinking otherwise? Once before you wanted to do something centralizing with your GVC meeting, and if I did not interfere, the whole thing would have been killed. Do not think in this way of being corporation, big credits, centralization. These are all nonsense proposals. Only thing I wanted was that books, printing and distribution should be centralized. Therefore, I appointed you and Balimardhan to do it. Otherwise, management, everything should be done locally by local men. Accounts must be kept, things must be in order, and lawfully done, but that should be each temple's concern, not yours. Krishna conscious movement is for training men to be independently thoughtful and competent in all types of departments of knowledge and action, not for making bureaucracy. Another letter, no, never mind, there may be botheration to register each center. Take tax certificate each, become separate corporations in each state. Once there is bureaucracy, the whole thing will be spoiled. There must be always individual striving and work and responsibility, competitive spirit. Not that one shall dominate and distribute benefits to others, and they do nothing but beg from you and you provide. Never mind, there may be botheration to register each center, take tax certificate, become separate corporations in each state. That will train men how to do these things, and they shall develop reliability and responsibility. That is the point. Each center remain independent, that's all right, but the president and officers must themselves follow and see others are following the regulative principles carefully. Another letter, so far as I am concerned, I have not got much stock in centralized management or organization. I never wanted that any of my temples shall be dependent upon the other temples. Regarding the smaller temples being dependent upon the central temple of Washington, DC, that is up to you to decide. But so far I am concerned, I have not got so much stock in such centralized management organization. I never wanted that any of my temples shall be dependent upon the other temples. Rather, our main business is to train up men to be sufficient and competent, responsible like that. We must learn how to do all the things of varieties of engagement on Krishna's service, not that we shall expect anyone else to act for us and thus avoid something ourselves. Yeah, but we can centralize the book distribution and the management. Yeah. So regarding incorporation of our ISKCON centers, we want to run all our centers as non-profit religious organizations. That is the main point. Keeping this point in view, too much official control is not good in spiritual life. The center should remain spiritually fit and independent. Regarding incorporation of our ISKCON centers, we want to run all our centers as non-profit religious organizations. Keeping this point in view, too much official control is not good. Okay, the center should remain spiritually fit and independent. Some control must be there as is now. Too much control means so many vouchers. Gradually, it will become a mundane institution. All our managers should be spiritually advanced, simple and honest in carrying out the orders of Guru and Krishna. That will be a nice standard. Democracy in spiritual affairs is not at all good, but breeds power politics. We should be careful about power politics. Our only aim should be to teach each and every devotee is fully dedicated to Krishna, and things will go on nicely. Yeah, so this is what I wanted to share. There are many other letters, but they are on similar lines.
Okay. Yeah, so Prabhupada's instruction is clear, and that is what the temples are following today. So every temple is autonomous, but they are still ascribing to guidelines set by the governing body council, which is not necessarily on financial lines that temples have to share their funds with one another. So it's not like, so that notion is not really correct. I mean, it's not wrong. It's not wrong as you said, but it's not correct. It's not necessarily that's what's happening. Yeah. Okay. Can we?
And you had also another question about people thinking that ISKCON is just running on donations by people, right? So basically, see, the idea is that now, see, when you have a temple, when you have organization, and whenever it's a non-profit organization, then obviously you have to depend on people for the maintenance, for the expansion of the temple, and for that, obviously we require funds. So basically, the idea that ISKCON is running on people's donation, that is completely false, because first of all, the organization is established. We have discussed in our earlier talk show that the organization is actually a great benefit, and it facilitates the unification of devotees throughout the world for a higher purpose, for a common principle. And that's how we require organizations, and we require, I mean, just to maintain all these temples, we require temples because temples are the, they are like oases in the desert, and they provide a lot of uh, satisfaction to the people who are visiting. Now, why are people visiting temples? In spite of knowing the fact that, okay, the temples require a lot of donation and they require help, but still people are going to temples. Now, why they are going to temple? Because they see that the deities are worshipped very elaborately, very opulently, and in order to worship them opulently, obviously you require Lakshmi for that, you require money for that. And so the money obviously will come from those who are worshipping the temple, or visiting the temple, and those who would like to serve in a particular way. So without that, see, nothing is automatic in spiritual life. The Lord wants us to give opportunity to serve Him, and that's how people who donate, they should have this kind of attitude that if I am donating, it is for my own benefit, and whatever I have been provided, ultimately I have been provided by God only. Whatever I'm earning, whatever is my income, or whatever good things, good qualities that I have, or good relations that I have with people, whatever good I have in my life, auspicious thing I have in my life, it is because of the mercy of the Lord. If they think like that, then they'll be able to realize that. So we should give something in return to the Lord as an offering, basically as an offering of love. Okay. So based on that, this system is created. It is not that God wants money from us. It's a, like in a family, the father, initially he will take care of the children, he will do everything for the children, he will serve the children, he will make sure they get all the facilities and comfort. And then when he becomes old, then what, the responsibility will turn towards the children, and they will take care of the father. So now, so similarly, Krishna is our original father, and because of his mercy, we are able to get many things. And so now is the time that we give him something in return. That's a nature of love.
Reciprocation.
We just don't want to just keep taking and become selfish. That is selfish love. So selfish love is actually not appreciated at all, whether you are a spiritualist or you are an atheist. Everyone knows that if you are a selfish person, no one is going to, no one will get close to you. No one will become attracted to your personality. The more the selfless person is, the more attracted to they are to such a person, right? So the idea is that we want to give in return to the Lord, and when we give to the Lord, obviously again we are going to benefit from it, because we gain satisfaction, we gain happiness, we get a lot of peace, stability, and then we also know that there is some superior being who is actually observing things, and he is under control, he's taking things under control. And if there is some injustice happening in our life, we go to the Lord, we pray to them, because if you reject God from your life, then there is no one to give you that kind of assurance and faith, or that kind of support, that you require in the times of difficult situations. Because you can understand one thing, that the Lord is the overseer of everything, and he knows everything. So even though there is some injustice happening in my life, today or later, it will be, God will solve it. He will take care of it. And like, for example, people say this, Bhagwan ke ghar mein der hai, lekin andher nahi hai. So it may get delayed, but ultimately you will, there will be justice in your life. Dharma will prevail. So unless and until there is this kind of support from a superior being, and see, like for example, if you have someone in your family who is like a minister, and he has power, then he's like the authority over the state. So you know that, okay, in this state I cannot be harmed by anyone. And even if someone will do some kind of injustice to me, it will be resolved by my relative who is the minister of that state, right? So you will be, you will have that kind of relaxation, peace of mind, that kind of support you'll have. Okay. So similarly, when you have a support system in your life, then your anxieties, troubles, and everything is actually gone away to a lot of extent. Okay. But if there is only injustice happening in your life and you don't have any support system, then you will be miserable. You cannot do anything. So there are a lot of people who are optimistic in life. They are optimistic because they see that after undergoing a lot of challenges and difficulties, finally there is a time when uh, things will turn in their favor. That's why they become optimistic. So in spite of seeing negativities and challenges and situations they face, they take everything as an opportunity. Okay. But why do they take it as an opportunity? Because in the past they have got experience that these opportunities have turned into wonderful outcomes. Okay. So that's how the negativities have transformed into positivities. Okay. That's why they become optimistic. But for a person who has never seen any kind of positivity and everything is happening negative in their life, then obviously you cannot expect that person to become optimistic. He will become pessimistic. Okay. And now, obviously, nature is in acting in such a way that the people who have determination and they go through all these challenges, ultimately they become successful. That's that is what we see, we observe in the material world. So it means that there is some controlling power, there is some controlling factors who is actually giving the right thing at the right time, and that's how people become satisfied. So that's why I say that um, there are multiple benefits of going to a temple and establishing a relationship with the Lord. And now when you want a temple, obviously you require to maintain the temple, which, and then obviously when you go to festivals, when you hear kirtan, when you see the form of the Lord, when you see the dressing of the Lord, you get mesmerized, you get attracted, you feel a lot of bliss in your heart. And you also see some reciprocations of the deity, localized deity in the temple with your own being. You see those reciprocations also. You desire something, you want something from the Lord, and the Lord will actually give that, will fulfill that desire. So then your faith in the deity will become strong, and then you will start donating yourself, right? So these are all natural ways, to get attracted to the Lord, and then people start donating. It's not that we force anyone to donate, and it obviously we can never use force to do anything. The devotional service or love is completely voluntary, so we cannot enforce anything on people. It is by their own inspiration they come and they actually donate to the temple. Okay. And obviously they have to understand the fact that the idea of the temple, establishment of temple, is basically not just to come and see the deity of the Lord in the temple, but to also give knowledge, provide knowledge of the right understanding between your particular identity and the identity of the Lord. That knowledge is actually the most important factor. Unless and until you provide that knowledge, people, they may come for years and they will come to the temple, but they will never try to establish a connection with the Lord in a selfless way, right? So in order to give knowledge, again you require facilities, you require auditoriums, you require seminar halls, you require some kind of hall, you require some kind of space. It's not that you just call people in forest and there is a lot of in the summer season you invite them, and without air conditioning, without fans, you ask them to sit for hours. Who is going to do that? So obviously obviously there are no toilets, there are no clean toilets around. So you cannot expect people will come and they will listen a class of 1 hour or 2 hours. If you want to deliver that knowledge, then you have to make facilities for them. And all this requires a lot of efforts and energy and tan man dhan, everything. The people only think of tan and man, but dhan, they don't want to give that dhan because they think, they have all these misconceptions. But this is the only thing, it's a holistic thing. Like, we require everything. If we love someone, then we not only invest our physical body, but also time and also energy and also wealth for them. So again, again I say that ultimately whatever you donate, it is all going to benefit you. So like for example, even when we are distributing prasadam, that is going to benefit us only, because the Lord is going to glance at it. Okay, he may have eaten it, but then he's also leaving the remnants of that. So ultimately we are only consuming that prasad. And then whatever you spend for the temple, in the scripture it is very clearly said that it will all destroy your karma, and you can the pace will become faster, like the more closer you will actually get to the Lord.
Yeah, it's for our benefit. Okay.
Yeah. And then see, there is one last thing about this point is that basically the idea is, according to scriptures, it is the grihasthas who are actually the main you can say amongst the varnashram system, the grihastha ashram is actually the responsible ashram for maintaining the other three ashrams according to scriptures, because they are the earning class. They are the only earning class. Otherwise, you have the brahmacharis, then you have the vanaprasthis, then you have the sannyasis, and in the varna you have the brahmana, kshatriya, vaishya, and sudra. Okay, so when you consider the ashram of a person, though whether he may be a married person or he may be unmarried, and if he's a married person, then obviously he will earn money in order to maintain his family. So whoever is earning money, obviously they only can give money. You cannot expect that a renunciate can actually give money. They provide their service in the form of their time, their wisdom, and energy, and that's how they are full-time devotees in the temple.
True.
So yeah. Let's say you give money. Okay, you give money to some temple, you make some donation, but if the temple does not have any people to look around, what is going to happen with your money? It will be idle. So that money has to be converted into some form of service, so that you will actually, your money, your effort will be realized, right? So similarly, a person who is serving full time in the temple, he is just going to be dependent on the temple facilities. He is going to be dependent on the the donations that they receive from the grihasthas. So again, now the idea is that simplicity is actually the principle for all these renunciates, and they cannot expect things from the grihastha. They can only whatever service they are doing. If someone gives them donation, they will just accept it. That's how they are supposed to live. They are supposed to live a life of simplicity and with a lot of humility. So it should be a simple life. It's they cannot expect that they'll live in a 1 BHK, 2 BHK house, or they will have individual facilities.
Cars. Yeah, their own cars.
Yeah, cars or whatever it is. So like that. I mean, even if they have such facilities, like for example, certain renunciates, they may use iPhones or they may use laptops. But again, we have to understand these things are donated by people because they are inspired by their service and they donate to them. So it's there. I mean, we are not able to see their service because they are living in the background, whereas we are in the forefront. We are actually in the material world, and everyone can see what we are doing. But they are in the background. They are actually humbly serving the Lord, and we don't see that. But actually, they are also serving the Lord in their capacity. So basically, whoever is serving, we feel inspiration and we give that donation, and that is our service. That is the service of the grihasthas or the married people, right? Because married people, technically, they don't have time for doing other services that the renunciates can do. Okay, so that's why the main service of the married people is to, they can just facilitate and provide money like that. So I hope this is clear now.
Yeah. Yeah, this also means that um, that people who are following the tenets of ISKCON, principles of Bhakti Yoga, so all of them don't need to necessarily be renounced and become brahmacharis, because there is need for all kinds, like people from different walks of life. So broadly, grihasthas and brahmacharis. So grihasthas are the one who are able to like generate financial support for the temple, and then
Yeah.
the brahmacharis are like leading the front, or leading the initiatives for educating society, for like taking this knowledge to the different sections of society. So there has to that so that like uh, you know there is like a joint effort. That
Compliments. Both
Yeah,
ashrams are
that,
complementing.
right, yeah.
And the ashram one chooses also depending on one's own inclination. It is not forced
Propensity,
upon
yeah,
anyone.
right.
Yeah, one own propensity. But one thing is there, that the grihasthas, they are more engaged. They are more engaged and entangled in the material world. Whereas the renunciants, they have more chance of uh, becoming absorbed directly in devotional service to the Lord. So that's why obviously the grihasthas, they have utmost respect for the renunciants, uh, because they are kind of, I mean, it is just like mentioned that if you are a brahmachari, if you just remain a brahmachari for the entire life, then you are like 50% liberated. Okay. And then obviously you take sannyas, that's a different thing, and you maintain the sannyas standards and practice properly. Then it's very quick process. Whereas in grihastha ashram, it's a very slow process. It all depends on the individual, obviously, but you'll see that these are very rare individuals who are in grihasthas and they are like completely surrendered to the Lord, completely dedicated to the Lord. So because in grihasthas we have our own desires, we have our own comfort zone, and we have our own independence. So that's why it will take time for the grihasthas to actually advance in spiritual life if they do not take the medicine properly. So in that sense, these renunciant, they are at an advantageous position, and I mean, obviously they have to take the advantage of that. Otherwise, ultimately, all ashrams are actually complementing each other. But it's all a matter of realizing and understanding uh, that ultimately we have to connect everything with the service of Lord. So, I mean, in that sense.
Okay. Yeah. So for I think for this session, like discussing topics related to ISKCON and common questions and misunderstandings, those were all the questions that I had, like the common things that I hear. So it was good discussing this at like detail. So whoever is watching this, they will be able to get a very clear understanding of these points.
Yeah.
So Pratik, thank you very much for doing this service to Srila Prabhupada and to ISKCON. That like so that in society, people have the right slant about ISKCON. So with this, we will end our session here. And
Yeah, I mean, just a concluding point that you'll see that in the scriptures, in the past, there were so many kings with a lot of opulences, and they were all devotees of the Lord. And ultimately, they renounced and they became pure devotees of the Lord. So, whichever ashram we take, that is not an obstacle. It is completely based on our choice, our inclination. But the final goal should also be kept in mind, and we should proceed accordingly to that. So, yeah, so this is the examples that they have set. You'll see that each and every king, they have renounced,
right,
because the idea is that we don't want to become attached to the material world. We don't want to replace our consciousness with, in spite of thinking of Krishna or God, we don't want to get too much entangled and start thinking about the material world. right? So this is how we have to actually manage, and I think there is a time for it. When the right time will come, then we have to also make an attempt to basically gradually disengage from all these things. We should engage everything and connect ourselves to the Lord more and more. So that's why for the Grihastha, the sadhana and association is very important actually. Um,
Right, right. Okay. Thank you again.
okay, all right. So thank you so much, Aritra, for hosting the show, and maybe next time we can have a different topic.
We'll have a different topic. Yeah.
Yeah. So okay, all right. Thank you, all the viewers.